The ones that I feel where they would probably do better in the indie space are the ones who want creative control over everything.
Hello and welcome to the Mic'd Up Podcast. My name is Kaya. I am an author, a poet, and an entrepreneur. And today I am a podcaster. Joining me today, I have someone that is a person that you need to know. She is an entrepreneur, an author, and the owner of Black Odyssey Media. We have Entice with us today. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, Kaya. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. Reading over your bio, I see that you're a very busy woman. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
My
Okay,
pleasure.
so
Thank you for
thank you.
having me.
You're welcome. So I'm going to get right into your bio and we're going to get right into the Q&A. So, Shawanda Williams, affectionately known as Entice, is a native of Dallas, Texas, a wife and mother of two who adeptly manages her creative pursuits as a publisher, novelist, screenwriter, and film producer. Having retired from the corporate world after 12 years as a personal banker due to a bedridden pregnancy, Entice embarked on a new pursuit and made her passion her purpose. The multi-hyphenate seamlessly integrates her innate storytelling skills and fervor for books, documentaries, and films to write and produce gripping American female-centric dramas and crime thrillers. Entice's literary work have garnered recognition in esteemed publications such as Library Journal, Black Expressions, USA Today, and Dallas Morning News. She holds a BA from Arizona State University, where she concentrated in creative writing and film media studies, implementing a multicultural and interdisciplinary approach to her creative output. So again, thank you so much for joining. My first question for you, well, actually, before I start on my questions, I saw that you recently celebrated your year anniversary of Black Odyssey Media. How does that feel to be a year in on that?
Oh my God, accomplished. It feels great. It feels wonderful. It was a journey. Of course, it's a milestone when you hit that first year.
Mhm.
So it feels like an accomplishment because that literally was the main goal, was to get through that first year.
Yeah.
You know, just like a marriage, if you can make it through that first year.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, congratulations, and we'll for sure talk about that in just a bit. But I wanted to say congratulations before we
Thank
started.
you.
You're welcome. So, my first question is, in your bio, it's clear to me that you're a woman of many talents, author, publisher, film producer, just to name a few. I'd like to start by piecing together a timeline of how all these hats came, all these things came into alignment. Did you start as an author, or how did you start?
Yes, yes, absolutely. That is how I started actually. So if you want to go back even further, I
Mhm,
was actually a career woman in corporate America. So I
mhm,
actually started out straight out of high school as a personal banker.
mhm,
And I spent a lot of time in banking. And in banking is where I actually started writing on my very first book, which I ended up self-publishing. So I went from being a self-published author, and during my tenure, towards the end there, I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. I had previous miscarriages. So prior to her, my doctor had already warned me, you're probably going to be on bed rest, in this pregnancy. So when I hit, when I was starting to go into my second trimester, of course, he put me on bed rest. And that's when I, had to leave my corporate job because I was on bed rest during that duration of the pregnancy. So then at that point, I started, working on another book. And that just kind of kept my mind off of some of the scary things that had happened to me prior to in the other pregnancies.
mhm.
And so I successfully, had my daughter. I decided to continue on that path of, writing, because I felt like for me, that was home. That was
Mm.
where I and really, I was more passionate about writing than I was about working in corporate America. So I figured, for me, if I could figure out how to make this work and
Right.
bring in an income, this will be, like the best thing. So that's what I did. So I started out, as a self-published author, ended up getting a traditionally published deal with Sane Strayboard publishing company, who's
Okay.
who's Simon and Schuster, and went on to be a traditionally published author for some years. And then after that, I kind of segued into becoming a literary agent. So
Oh.
that's where that other hat came on. And it was me just pretty much marrying what I've done all that time in corporate America as a banker, managing portfolios, dealing with
Mm.
different clients, just taking that on and marrying it into this other space that I felt really comfortable in, and that just felt like the next level up from where I was. So once I wore that hat for a while, I eventually decided that I felt like I wasn't creating enough opportunities. I felt like me being an agent wasn't moving the needle enough as
Mm.
far as I wanted to move it. I really believed in the authors that I represented. And when you, how can I say it? When you navigate that space, right?
Mm.
And when you have to go through gatekeepers and things of that nature who don't actually see the vision that you see,
Mm.
it's almost more like a setback, right?
Mhm.
So I figured that this just can't be the end game for me. Like I can't allow someone else's opinion or what if they don't see the vision, I can't allow that to control this destiny. And that's where I felt a little limited in that
Okay.
role as it pertains to being a literary agent. So during the pandemic, I got this bright idea, which I like to call it a download, because it wasn't even something that I had thought about, actually. But it was during that time that I figured, you know what, I'm kind of over the agenting thing. I just felt like it wasn't my purpose. I loved my clients dearly. I was very passionate about the work, but I just felt like I was doing them a disservice because some of those doors that I was trying to get them in, they just weren't opening wide enough, and some
Mm.
of them weren't opening at all.
Got
So
it.
it made sense for me to try to kind of move my pieces on the board, I should say. And I
Mhm.
decided to become a publisher. I started toying with the idea of becoming a publisher, and I just, I prayed about it, and I mean, all I can say, and a lot of it is unexplainable, and that's why I just credit God for it, because it wasn't like I had been in that role before.
Right.
Published, yes, and of course, I'd helped other authors, on their path of, self-publishing, but not to the scale of where I'm working as a traditional publisher.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, I'm segued into that space, reached out to a distributor that I was all too familiar with, because I did, a lot of my clients were over with this particular distributor because they were also a publisher.
Mhm.
And the rest is history, to be honest with
Oh.
you. I was able to land, a traditionally published deal in the means of being, a partnership with a major distribution company. So it allowed me to enter that space, but under my own company brand and not necessarily be an imprint of that company.
Right.
So we
Right.
are, you know, woman owned, and we are independent.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, everything yeah, it just seemed like the steps that you took, everything was supposed to go that way. It just seems that way, you telling it, me how everything came. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
So how long from the time you were in the banking industry till the time you started your publishing company? What's the time frame for that? Was it a few years or?
So I started banking right out of high school, which was 2000. So I entered into it in 2000,
Mhm.
and I had my daughter in 2011. So probably a year before that, up until a year before her birth.
Okay.
Well, 7 months, because like I said, once I got into my second trimester, that's when I was
That's
entered into bed rest. So yeah, up until literally 2010, give or take a few months. Once I got into my second trimester was when I decided to leave corporate America. Really,
Gotcha.
and I had every intention on going back.
Right.
But considering everything that I'd gone through with previous pregnancies, it was just one of those things where once I had my daughter, I wanted to be with her full time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So roughly 10 years, if you're looking at a time stamp for it. And then once I had her, literally from 2011 and going on, like that, I'd already written the first book by that point. So it wasn't until I was officially on bed rest where I started working on the second book. And then, of course, the next series, which is the one that I ended up publishing with Zane.
So you were writing, you said you started writing your first book right out of high school. Have you always been a writer, like a creative person? Like when you were a child, did you just like write
Yes,
stories all the time?
absolutely.
Did you think you were
Absolutely.
going to be a writer when you were younger, or it was just like a hobby then?
It wasn't that I thought that I would be a writer
Mhm.
professionally. Honestly, when I was younger, and I feel like so many other writers have this same story, but my mom, she bought me my first typewriter. I don't know if you
Mm.
remember back then, J.C. Penney, when they had the catalogs.
I do remember.
She had ordered me, a typewriter from the catalog because, and everyone knows my story. I pretty much share this a lot, but I didn't come from, a background of where, I had everything. Like I literally, came from um, an environment where we were not, you know what I'm saying? We were not given just, we had to work for everything we had,
Mm. Hmm.
and so my mom, she, we lived in a very disadvantaged neighborhood, so what she would do was with the kids, with us, she would always make sure we still had a great Christmas. And
Mm.
so one day I was looking in the catalog because she loved, looking in the catalog. I guess it was like a wish list for her, what she wanted, because she couldn't afford that stuff. You know what I
Right.
mean? So that's what I was doing this particular day, looking through their Christmas section of the catalog. And I was going through the gifts and I was like, I want this, I want that, I want that. And the main thing that I wanted was the typewriter. Had no idea if she would be able to afford it or not, but I ended up getting that typewriter for Christmas. And that started the journey of really kind of pouring out my creativity on paper. I feel like I've always been a creative, but that was me actually putting words on paper. So I started out with poetry. I also used to, do a little creative rapping, so I did
Okay.
all of the things. And eventually that's when I started moving into the long form storytelling space. And I decided that, writing was for me. I didn't know what that looked like because at that time, when I grew up, I didn't see many opportunities
Mm-hmm.
where I could have done that full time. So that wasn't something that was on my, it wasn't a part of my dream as far as my dream job. I didn't know it was possible. I
Right.
wasn't familiar, with that space enough to know, we didn't have the Shonda Rhimes and all of that, like not to
Right.
what I could see because
Right.
television, there wasn't a lot of diversity back then. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think that, me writing full time was possible.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, but now music, of course, I thought that that's what I wanted to do. And that was another creative outlet of mine. I tried the music thing on the independent scene, of course, but I realized I don't like a lot of attention. I don't like the stage. I don't
Mm.
like, the late night stuff. Like, so I knew then, even though I could write and I was actually writing other people's rhymes and things of that nature, I just still felt like that's just not my scene,
Right.
so I pulled all the way back from that and then and just kind of went into corporate.
Okay. Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying as far as, um, being younger and not knowing how you can make a career out of writing. When I was, I used to write a lot when I was younger, and I always said I wanted to be a writer, but I had no idea how that opportunity could even happen. Like it just seemed like so far away, like so with
Mhm.
like outside of my reach. Like, how do you even do that? So
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Who were some of your authors that you you really looked up to or inspired you during your, when you did start to really lean into that talent of writing and storytelling?
Well, when I started with my very first book, I can start there because growing up, I was a lover of the Babysitters Club, Sweet
Oh
Valley
yeah,
High,
yeah, me
you know,
too. Yeah.
yeah, all the good olds from the Scholastic,
Mm-hmm.
fair. So,
Yep, for sure.
yep. And then once I decided to actually write my first novel, it was when I was introduced into urban fiction, to be honest with you. And a friend, she had gifted me The Coldest Winter Ever for my birthday.
Mm.
And when I read that book, I'd read other books, but when I read that book, that was my first introduction into, and I don't even believe Sister Soldier classifies it as urban fiction, but from where it stands, it's like from what most people have categorized it, I considered it to be, for me, urban fiction because of the environment and the nature of what was going on in the books.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that was my first introduction. And like I said, I didn't come from a just well-to-do, background or environment. So a lot of what was going on in the book, Sister Soldier's, Coldest Winter Ever, I could relate. It resonated with me, you know. So in my opinion, I was just like, oh God, if she can write this book, if this is all I have to do is basically go out here and be a documentarian of what's going on in my hood, I
Right.
got this, And what we call that now is street journalism.
Mm.
And so I was able to use some of those innate journalistic skills, I should say, and my creative storytelling. I was able to weave those things together and, crank out my very first group of novels.
Okay.
But it was that book. It really was her book that woke me up to the idea that this was a possibility.
It's so funny that my sister is a big romance reader, back when I really wasn't. And she told me, she was like, you need to read this book, The Coldest Winter Ever. And that was like for me too, that was like my first introduction into, I guess, urban romance, if you will. That was like, and I'm, reading and I'm like, I didn't know that we wrote like that. You know what I mean? I
Right.
didn't know,
Yes.
there were stories out there like that. And I still remember I read that book in like 2 days. And yeah,
Yeah.
I for sure. That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is, with all the hats that you wear, how do you manage your time? Because you do a lot. How do you
Yeah.
manage?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's bite-sized pieces, honestly. So right now, I'm not working on a novel, so
Mhm.
that frees up space for me to
Right.
do other things. Um, Being a publisher is now a full-time job for
Mm.
me because we are very limited staff, as you say. So it's me wearing like more hats than I was wearing before.
Yeah.
So I have to focus on my new baby for right now.
Mm.
And that's what I've been doing. So that's pretty much how I manage my time between Black Odyssey, my family, everything else doesn't get as much attention anymore. And I just needed that. I needed to make some adjustments because Black Odyssey is new and I
Mhm.
wanted to be able to put my everything into it.
Mhm. Okay. So when did you realize when um when did you realize you were going to have to build a team around you to help, make everything happen? Like, you started Black Odyssey. Did you start that on your own, or did you build a team and then start?
Yeah, no, I had already started Black Odyssey. Even prior to getting my distribution deal, I had already had like a couple of, independent projects. My daughter's books, for example, under Black Odyssey. But once I got the distribution deal, that's when I knew that, okay, I'm going to need some assistance with this. And so I actually brought on interns to help me. And these were just it was only three. These were individuals that I was familiar with. I had a great rapport with, and I just told them, "Hey, this is a new baby, but I don't think that I can handle this alone." And so literally from the start of bringing on new authors, from the production seat piece of it, from kind of monitoring that entire thing. It's been the four of us this entire time, all the way from right before the first release, because even before we released the very first book, we had about a 8 to 12 month stretch just to kind of get prepared. So yeah, but I knew right away that if I was gonna grow this into what I really envisioned, that I was going to need a solid team behind me. And what that looked like for me was, even though I do most of those things, what it looked like for me was bringing on the right people that I could trust with this, to put certain things in their lap, and then they be able to get the job done. But I couldn't do this alone.
Yeah, I'm sure. What would you consider? Well, let me back up for a moment. When you put your team together and you all were prepping, to, I guess, launch, how did you start acquiring authors?
Yeah, I did. I had previous relationships with a few of those authors that we were able to bring on, but also had great relationships with agents who really wanted to help me start, and grow Black Odyssey. So that's really kind of what it boiled down to: relationships.
Okay. Are you surprised at how much growth you're getting right now, or this is kind of what you expected?
I'm surprised. I am. I'm surprised. We've had a lot of support from vendors and new accounts, and we've had a lot of authors that, that even the authors that started with us, they came back for second and third book deals. So yeah, no, I'm very happy with where we are right now in our first year mark, to know that we've acquired so many books. We have so many authors that, we are going to be able to publish, from new authors to seasoned authors. So I'm really proud about that, because they took a chance on a new company.
Right.
So, and I didn't go into it with the expectation that, they're going to want to be with us. I didn't even do that. My thing is I'll start out small and just, allow them to get comfortable with us and what we're doing. But right out the gate, when we opened our doors, we had so many, authors ready to sign on, so many agents that were supporting us. And so that for me meant a lot, because I was not expecting it. In my opinion, it's like the company has to prove themselves.
Right.
So, and we hadn't even made it a year, and we had all that support.
That's great. That's great. That says to me that you had like a really good reputation and good people on your side, and people who really want to help you succeed and help you grow. So that's a great thing. So
Yes.
good. Of all the titles that you hold in this creative space, which one do you enjoy the most? I know right now you said Black Odyssey is your primary focus, but if you could just choose one thing that you could just do all the time, what would you choose?
Oh my God, Kaya, that's hard.
I'm sure you have different reasons why you love all of them, but it's like,
Yeah.
what is it when you have to sit down to do, you're like, you just feel like you're excited to do it, or you're just ready to dive in?
So being a publisher for me, it does require a lot of hard work and grind, right? But honestly, if I really think about that, it's the opportunities. You know what I mean? It's me going back to what I initially said as being an agent, me having control, me being able to green light those projects. So I think that for me, that's the most satisfying for me, because I'm passionate about also helping others. And once I was able, or in that seat where I'm able to green light and say, well, I believe in this story, I believed in it from day one. We're doing this, having that role and being able to do that for me is liberating, because like I said, that initially is what had me sort of sliding back from the agenting thing because I felt like I had no control, over the projects that I was really, really passionate about. So me just being in this space now and being able to help other writers get their works out there and do everything in my power to make sure that their visibility for their books is there. I think that's what I really enjoy the most right now in this creative space. Of course, being a filmmaker, I do some independent stuff. That's fun as well. I've done one project of my own as far as a feature film, but I've helped others do, produce their projects. That was for me. It was the same feeling that I had with this. Me being able to help someone else birth their baby, me being able to help them get their ideas across on for the screen, all of those things. So initially, I think it goes hand in hand. Me just having that role and being able to execute the vision.
Okay. Now, for an author who is on the fence of independent publishing versus traditional publishing, and they have a conversation with you about, what all traditional publishing entails and what you can do for them, what does that first conversation with them sound like?
Well, realistically, I always ask them, well, are you looking to be a career author, or are you looking to just publish one book just to see what this is about? Because that's I think is where you really have to have a heart to heart. What is your goal? What is the ultimate goal here? Because when you have that conversation with an author, you don't want to overpromise and overcommit. And I always tell, even as an agent, I would tell my authors, not every author is going to get a 6-figure deal. Not every author is going to have their books in every single bookstore. But that's just being real with them out of the gate, and the honesty in that is because not every publisher has those marketing dollars that they can spread out for every single author. So it's just one of those things where you just have to ask them, what are you ready to put in? What kind of work are you ready to put in? What work have you done in order to build this platform of yours so that we can make sure that you're a success no matter what publisher you're under? Even as a self-published author, you have to ask yourself those questions. So it's really just leaning into what is the end goal for you? You know what I mean? Because at that point, I'll be able to better guide them on the journey. Now, when they start talking financials, you have more control when you're independent, but you have to, they have to be realistic about what that looks like for them too, time-wise, because they're going to be having to manage all of those things, the distribution aspect, the creative aspect. So you're not just a writer at that point. You're going to have to navigate these other areas, and you may not have time for that. So if you don't have time for that, then something's going to sacrifice. You're going to sacrifice on one end. So you're probably going to end up in the same boat as far as not being satisfied in that independent space because you're not prepared. You weren't prepared to take on or tackle some of the other roles that come with publishing.
Right.
So it's really just, and everybody's journey is different. Everybody, and that's why I say it's not like a conversation that you can just have with every single author and fix it to where you really kind of have to understand where they are in their journey and what their goals are.
Okay. Do you have conversations with authors where you make the determination that, maybe independent is best for you based on that?
Yeah, I do. The ones that I feel where they would probably do better in the indie space are the ones who want creative control over everything. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I understand that because I'm independent. I never tried to be traditional. My knowledge about traditional publishing is a little limited, but I could see like that would be a concern of mine as well, as far as what types of control I would and wouldn't have. How do you, I guess, break down the benefits of what you can do for them as far as, well, let me backtrack. What controls do you have and what controls would the author have?
when they come to Black Odyssey.
Yes, ma'am.
So, well, ultimately, when the publisher always has the final say so. And I think
Right.
that's every publisher. But with Black Odyssey, what we do is we invite them into the process. So, because remember, I am an author as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I am able to look at it from all point of views. I'm able to see that side. So I know that authors they want control over their cover, but I am able to say to them, yep, I know this one. I know you want this one. I know why you want this cover. However, marketing wise, it doesn't give us commercial appeal. This does look like an independent book. This looks like something that you created, on your own. It doesn't look professionally done. So I'm able to do that because I've had authors that have come to me and say, here's a mock-up of what I want. And they would ask me, can they use that particular thing? And I'm like, absolutely not.
Oh.
And I would just be honest because what we don't want is clip art looking type covers.
Right.
So that's why you can't give authors all the control when you're a publisher, because you have to think on the lines of what are new accounts looking at. And when we're talking new accounts, we're talking your representatives at some of the bigger chains. So the booksellers who are looking at this cover, how is this going to look on our shelf? How is this going to look as a thumbnail for our online bookstore? You get what I'm saying? So it still needs to pop. It needs to look professional, and I tend to have the heart to heart with those authors early on, especially if I know that they're picky about their covers. And most authors are, and they should be. Mm-hmm. But we invite them into the process. We don't just say, it's not a takeover situation where we're like, nope, we have final control, that's it, that's all. We don't do that. We're like, here are 2 to 3 drafts, which one do you like the most? And we try to and we actually give them a guide, a sheet, an artwork sheet to fill out, so they're able to also put comparative titles on that guide to better guide my designer, so that she's not just spinning her wheels as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So when a prospective client does come to you, what are you looking for in them to say you are a good fit for us to partner together?
Well, we're always looking for career authors. So we're looking for authors who are really invested in the journey. Mm-hmm. And what really stands out for us, of course, we always look at the storytelling gift. So the storytelling gift has to be there. But also, it really helps if you have a platform already established, because that also kind of guides us into how well you promote your own work. Because some authors, not saying they don't want to, but that may be a weakness for them. So if we know that early on, then we can kind of help them. We can kind of coordinate a game plan so that they can figure out, how to kind of kickstart that side before their book releases. But yeah, that's what that looks like, seeing how invested they are in themselves before we decide to step into the mix. Because nowadays, with the way the economy is, and with so many changes that are being made in the space, having a good story sometimes isn't just, it's not enough.
Right. Right.
You have to consider all of the other factors, like, is this author marketable, or are they going to be willing to promote their book themselves? How active are they on social media? These are all these other things that we have to check off, now.
Right. It's a lot of moving pieces.
It is a lot of moving pieces, a lot of variables. Whereas before, I'll be honest, and I made the mention of this last year when I did an event in Houston. I said, when I first got the distribution deal, I was on my Oprah. I was like, you get a deal, you get a deal, you get a deal.
Oh, gosh, I gotcha.
I was just excited to kind of give everybody an opportunity. But then after a few months, I had to sit back, because now I have to have a conversation with the upper heads that are over here with my partners. And they're like, well, what is this author doing? We went on their social media and we're not seeing any activity in this. And I'm like, oh, they're watching. Yeah. And they're not the only ones watching. These bookstores are watching, because before they make a decision, they need to know, are you engaging? Are you going to show up if we invite you to a signing? If we order all these copies, are you going to help us move these copies off of our shelf? Right. So I had to kind of reel it in a little bit, and we need a real plan.
Yeah.
We need a plan now.
Okay, that makes sense. Also in your bio, you mentioned earlier that you do films. How did that come into play?
I started out doing documentaries first.
Okay.
Because remember, I was saying I feel like I've always had like this journalistic side,
Right.
of me. I didn't go into journalism in school, but that is something that I felt like was already in me, like being curious, And but the film, how I decided to get into that space was I just was ready to. I think most authors, when they have a novel, especially in fiction,
Right.
they're ready to take that to the next level, and a lot of times that's film. So I wanted to adapt something that was easy to adapt because I knew that I was going to produce it myself. So with $5,000 of my hard-earned money, I was able to bring together a team, and we adapted my very first one of my stories. It's not a novel; it's a novella actually.
Okay.
Adapt that into a film, a feature film.
And what was the name of that film?
So the novella is Chasers, and the film is Gutamamis. So it's like a
Okay.
New York women's crime thriller.
Okay. Okay, I might have to check it out. Where can it be found?
So it's on Tubi right now. It's on Peacock. It's at some other spaces, but those are like the two main platforms that a lot of people watch it on.
Okay. Is it just as, I don't want to say difficult, what type of challenges do you have getting things to screen versus like getting a book out traditionally? Is it
Oh,
more?
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
it's a lot. It's not an easy feat for sure. So there are a lot of different challenges you can run up against. Distribution, of course, is always the main thing. If you're talking from a self-publishing or self-producing space, it's the distribution aspect because you can create the movie, like you could create the book, but if you don't have distribution for it, then that's gonna really set up some challenges in itself. But and it's hard to compare the two because it's so many variables when it comes to filmmaking.
right.
But those are a few of the challenges. Just the distribution. You have to have that in order to get the film out. If not, you're gonna probably find yourself putting it on, I guess, YouTube or whatever. Those other
Gotcha.
spaces where you can upload content. Yeah. But if you want mass distribution, you're gonna want to connect with a company that can get it out there on those other platforms. And
So
that
the
can be
relate.
some. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say the relationships that you build are very, very important. So,
Yes.
yeah, and it's obvious that you have really good people on your team that help you push all of your visions to life.
Wow. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
And so I'm glad you brought up the relationship piece of it because remember how I said I did my documentary first before I did my first feature film.
Mhm.
So I went to a distributor when I did the documentary. Of course, this is me. This is an indie space. So this is me winging it. Okay. Not knowing what I'm doing, me winging it. So I did the same thing with the documentary. That was my first effort at independent filmmaking. So I took the documentary to a distributor, Maverick, which they're known for creative content. So I took the film to the documentary to them, and they wanted it, and they do support and pick up a lot of independent projects. So I was like, I think they're gonna want this, and they did. They really wanted it. So that relationship is honestly what made me go back to them for my very first feature film that I did. It was having that rapport and them seeing the vision. Because remember, I'm all about who sees the vision,
Right, right, right.
So them seeing the vision with this independent documentary that I
We put
kind of
together,
came
yeah.
on myself, yeah. I was like, well, they saw the vision for that. Maybe they'll see where I'm going with this thing, and maybe they'll see the vision with this thing that I'm trying to do. And yeah, they ended up becoming a partner of mine, and yeah, and we took on that. They didn't just take on that one; they actually were ready to take on multiple projects for me. So
Wow.
yeah, but we just did the one. We focused on just the one that I mentioned, Gutter Mommies, and yeah, and we didn't look back.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. I'm sure that
Thank
was
you.
like really a proud moment to see your words translated onto screen. I could ask you a bunch of questions about that, but yeah, congratulations on
Thank
that. That's
you. Thank
awesome.
you. And I got to shout out Brianna Cole because she was my co-writer in writing the script. So at
Okay.
that time, she hadn't written a feature film yet either, neither one of us. I had a little bit of training from school, but, and I think she had done plays, but this was both our first feature film, technically. And I wanted to bring her in because we had conversations about, going to the screen, going to the screen, and she was just the perfect person that I found to adapt the novella with me, and we did our thing, and like like they say, the rest is history.
Okay, congratulations on that. I'm assuming in the future you'll have more stories that go to film. So I look forward to that.
Thank
Let's see.
you.
Ideally, um, what would you like to see happen with Black Odyssey within the next year? Because, you just celebrated your first year. You mentioned that things are growing. You've had a lot of authors come to you. You have your solid team. What would you like to see this time next year with Black Odyssey?
Okay, great question. I would like to see us bringing or putting out some nonfiction writers. So I would like to see us publish at least one or two nonfiction books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would also like to see us be able to grow a little more as far as the output, what we put out a year. But a lot of that just depends on where the economy is.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to see that. But that is one of my biggest goals is to bring known names over and also released at least one or two nonfiction titles.
Mm-hmm. So right now, are the genres you typically publish, are they typically like urban romance, or is kind of all over? Is it
Yeah, no, not just urban romance. We publish multiple genres actually. Yeah. So, but
I'm a,
most of them are fiction. So we don't have any nonfiction writers yet, but we're working on that.
okay. I didn't mean to ask the question that way. I was trying to ask, do you find primarily that romance authors come to you? That's what I was trying to ask.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. We get a lot of romance authors, but we know romance is there.
Mm-hmm.
So what we want to do though is be able to offer, a lot of the niche subjects as well,
Mm-hmm.
because you just don't. There's just not enough of it. So we want to
Right.
make sure that we're really, appeasing the appetite of those who are looking for more than just romance. And I think that's what you're going to get when you come to Black Odyssey, or when you visit our site. You're going to see we have an array of stories out there for everybody, not just romance, readers.
Right. And for everyone who is tuned in right now, I will go ahead and link in the website to where you can get more information on Miss Entice and Black Odyssey, so you can check her out and see what she has going on. So more information will be down below. So if someone wanted to contact you, going through your site would be the best way, or what?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a submission tab with information as far as how you can submit your manuscript. And then there's another link. I want to say contact us. That under that tab, you can actually email us directly. And one of our interns or reps will answer your email as soon as we get it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all the questions that I have for you. Okay. So my last question I have for you is, what can we look forward to with Black Odyssey Media coming forward that you can share with us?
Oh, you can look forward to some new books, some new authors, and hopefully more book to film projects.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to that. I do follow you on Instagram, and I keep up with all the projects that you have going on. And I see you've recently taken on Robbie Renee, and she has a few projects coming out. And I'm excited about that. I'm just excited about everything that you're doing. And I just want to congratulate you again on everything you're doing, because anyone who starts a business, runs a business, owns a business, and bring it from, from a thought to conception, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work and consistency. And I appreciate, as an author, I appreciate you putting in the time and having the passion to bring authors, distributed widely to audiences. So I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now that we're at the Q&A, I have a small game that I want to play with you. I always try to throw in a game, just kind of lighthearted, nothing too serious, just to get, the people who are watching to get know a little bit more about you. And because you are into films, I figured it would be nice to have a this or that on Black films, on which one you would prefer to watch.
Okay.
Or which one is your favorite, or whichever.
Got it.
Alrighty. All right. First one, Menace to Society or Boys in the Hood? I know, right? I know, right? They're not gonna get easier.
Boys in the Hood.
Boys in the Hood. Juice or New Jack City? I know.
New Jack City.
New Jack City. I would go with Nino Brown too. Dead Presidents or Belly?
Dead Presidents.
Dead Presidents for sure. That is an underrated movie. I feel like that's a highly underrated movie.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Jason's Lyric or Poetic Justice?
Ooh, that's tough. Oh, goodness. I'm going to have to say Poetic Justice.
Poetic Justice? Okay. Yeah. All right. The Best Man or Boomerang?
The Best Man.
Okay. White Men Can't Jump or He Got Game?
White Man Can't Jump.
I would go with that one too. Friday or A Low Down Dirty Shame?
Friday.
Okay. House Party or The Wood?
House Party.
Okay. Crooklyn or Soul Food?
Soul Food.
Okay. Love Jones or How Stella Got Her Groove Back?
Oh, Love Jones. I mean, I love How Stella, good, but Love Jones for sure.
Gotcha. Waiting to Exhale or The Bodyguard?
Waiting to Exhale.
Lean on Me or Higher Learning?
That's tough. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say Higher Learning.
Higher Learning?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Higher Learning.
Okay, and the last one, Rush Hour or Bad Boys?
Oh, goodness.
The first Bad Boys. Let me say the first Bad Boys.
Okay. Oh.
And the first Rush Hour.
Okay. Oh, that's tough. I'm just gonna go with Bad Boys.
Okay. Gotcha. And a bonus one, name a movie that you think is highly overrated.
Oh, a movie that's highly overrated.
That you think is highly overrated.
I can't recall right now.
Okay.
I don't. You have to throw some out there and let me.
Uh, I can't think of one either. Something that's really overrated. You know what movie everyone loved that I did not like was the Will Smith I Am Legend. I didn't like that
Okay.
movie. I thought that
Okay.
was overrated.
Okay. And you know what? I actually, my husband watched that a few times, and I think that I've only was able to catch a few glimpses. I haven't watched it all the way through, so I don't think I should even
No,
comment.
it's yeah, to me, yeah, I love Will Smith, but that was
Yeah,
overrated.
that one did cut it.
Yeah. A movie you think is grossly underrated.
It's so many of them out there that I think are underrated. Um,
Or an actor or actress you think is grossly underrated.
okay. So we already know Michael B. Jordan, but he's starting to get his flowers. But
Mhm.
for a while, I thought that, I knew that he would be the one,
Yeah.
but I think that now everyone is seeing him, for the big name that he is now. Um, hmm, Male actor
Either or.
or I can't even because I don't watch film as much as I used to. So I'm
Um,
not even sure who's on the scene now,
gotcha.
that I could just rattle off like that. But there are a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, there are a
There are
lot.
because I'm even watching a movie, a series I've just gotten into. Is it Daria from Detroit or something
Oh,
on BET?
De'Ara from Detroit. Right,
Daria
right,
from
right. I'm
Detroit.
trying to watch that too.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
You finished
That's
it?
pretty good.
You
No,
finished the season?
I'm on episode 3 right now. I accidentally stumbled upon it, so I just got into it.
Yeah, I'm on episode 2, like halfway through that one. So, and my
Yeah.
last one I have for you is name a movie you've watched over and over and over and can watch over and over again.
A movie. Okay, so and we're talking romance, right? I can
Any,
do
yeah, any movie.
I can do the Titanic over and over and over again.
Really?
Titanic and Pearl Harbor.
Oh wow. I could
Love
do
those.
what's the movie? Five Heartbeats. I could do that movie over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
And if we're talking
Titanic.
more, like movies that are black movies,
Mhm.
classics, I could do Love Jones over and over.
Mm.
I could do that over and over. Um,
But the Titanic, how long is that? Is it like 3 hours?
oh,
Because I know
yeah.
I've watched it. I know I've watched it a few times. I haven't watched it recently, but isn't it like over 3 hours or something of that nature?
Yeah, that's what would shock people because yeah, you wouldn't even. But my husband would tell you like when that comes on, I'm on it. Like you know, that one and like I said, Pearl Harbor and now as a kid I got hooked on this. Do you remember Leroy the Last Dragon?
Yep, I do. I
I mean, it
do.
doesn't come on as often, but that is a movie too that I could watch over and over. And that's
Yeah.
because of this nostalgia. It takes me back to, when I was in middle
Childhood.
school
Yeah.
watching. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that was the last one I have had for you. It's been really nice talking to you and getting to know you. Do you have any final words or final thoughts that you would like to put out there?
No, I don't. Just, for the authors who are listening, feel free to check out our website, look at the submissions and let us see some of your new work.
All right, everybody. So this is the end of the podcast. Miss Entice, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a delight getting to know you. And it's nice to formally meet you for the first time. And everyone who's watching, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you on the next one.
Thank you
Bye.
for having me.
You're welcome. 10 minutes before my podcast. I'm trying to eat.